What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Cards. Today we've got Big Pat Ryan on the show. Pat was on episode 100 of the Worlds Collide podcast, which you can find in the archives of this channel. However, today we get a little bit more into Pat's origin story, his love of wrestling, how he got into the wrestling business, and what he's currently collecting. But our main topic for today's conversation is how to pull off successful trades. Trading is a fantastic way to get cards that you want for your PC, or that you think you can get a deal on to then sell, to then take that money and buy the stuff for your PC. Picking what you don't want, getting it to somebody that does want it for something that you do want. Pat and I made a really successful trade recently, just kind of out of the blue, and I thought it would be beneficial for us to talk about it from both sides. What was he thinking? What was I thinking? What was the negotiations? What was the value we put on things? We also talk about proper etiquette. How do you need to approach somebody when you're wanting to trade for what they have? How do you approach dealers if you see something in a showcase and you want it? What can you expect from a value perspective from cash trade? And knowing what some of these dealers have to have on their end, because they're making a living. They've got to pay for that card show. They've got to pay that showcase. They've got to pay the rent for that LCS. There's just a lot of things that can go into trading and knowing what to expect from both sides. And again, proper etiquette. Not just jumping into somebody's DMs and saying, "What's the price on this, bro?" Also, Pat's got some awesome information and funny stories to kind of sprinkle throughout this conversation of just general wrestling talk and his experience in the professional wrestling business. So let's go ahead and jump into the conversation with Big Pat Ryan. What's up, everybody? We've got Pat Ryan on the show today. Welcome. We've had you on the roundtable for the Worlds Collide, but I figured let's get you on your own show to get a little bit more in-depth. And we got something special we're going to talk about today, but welcome. How's it going today?
It's going great, man. It's a beautiful day out. No mail today, unfortunately, but I got some great mail this week. But things are good, man. Things are really good. I just did a card show on the weekend, about an hour out of Windsor.
Let's talk about that right off the bat. Go.
And the Godfather was the autograph guest.
Nice.
Not only was the autograph guest, but I had to drive him back to Detroit afterwards.
Wow, was that expected or?
Yeah, no, I've been doing that now. When I do
okay,
I drove Coco last time. I'm driving Gangrel next month because I'm right across from Detroit. So instead of the guys having to come back through, I just take them back. And they know I used to be in the ring. I'm kind of, I'm not just some crazy fan.
Right.
So it's all good. And the Godfather was fantastic. And do you know who the GWC is?
It seemed, yeah.
The guy with the big beard, he was on the Lost Trail. Well, we went out with him because the Godfather hangs out with him all the time.
Oh, okay.
It was a blast. It was a blast. It was exactly what you would expect from hanging out with those two guys.
Just a bunch of nonsense is what I would expect.
flying planes, getting lit and having fun. Being around. It was fantastic. Those guys were, great stuff, man. The coolest thing is he kept talking about The Undertaker because he just recorded the podcast for the Taker's birthday or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't talk about any details really.
Sure.
It was it was just cool sitting there going, "Oh my God, listen to what's going on." He's texting with Undertaker as I'm sitting next to him. What the So
it's a little bit of a surreal moment, I'm sure, but at the same time, me and Tony talk about this all the time. Like anytime you run into people like that, you can't be like these idiots at these airports or these shows where they're just like, "Oh, you remember that time in 1985 when you did this?" And you got to treat them like people, man.
I did that this weekend. It was also Impact Wrestling tapings here in Windsor. It was in the Fallout. And I was backstage hanging out because I used to wrestle for Border City Wrestling here in Windsor. And Alex Shelley we were chatting with Alex Shelley and Speedball Mike Bailey. And Alex Shelley had in the ring at the end of the show, he said, "I started here in Windsor like 20 years ago, and I just wanted to thank the fans for always following along. And the Motor City Machine Guns have been all over the world and it's fantastic stuff." So when I had the chance to talk to him, I said, "I've always wanted to say this to you, and you're not going to remember me because you really have no reason to. But your first match ever was at the Canada Tavern in Windsor. It was July, whatever year." And I said, "I'm Big Pat Ryan." He goes, "I remember you now, whether he did or not, but it was his first match ever." So I have a feeling there could be a recollection of it. So
did you work that same show or something?
Yeah, I was the main and myself, and I was Big Pat Ryan, and bigger Jake LeDuc was my opponent. So
gotcha.
So yeah. So,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a little bit different. Like, I consider that a little bit different because maybe you guys are both workers, maybe a little different camaraderie thing there.
I wasn't trying to mark out. It's
right.
been tough though. I mean, being in the business, you had to be totally calm when you met everybody, and
sure.
you could, even though on the inside you're like, oh my God, I'm talking to Hulk Hogan, or I walk into a locker room and Tito Santana and Rick Martel are facing each other talking in the 90s, and I'm like, oh, just shake their hand and say hi and everything, because I mean, Rick Martel, I grew up watching AWA, so
yeah.
Rick Martel was like a hero to me, right?
Right.
So yeah.
So how was the card show? What was the wrestling presence there? What was your kind of takeaway from that?
Sorry, say that again.
You said you were at a card show?
Oh, the card show?
Yeah.
It was, well, because of the Godfather there were a few vendors that had wrestling, but I'm the wrestling vendor in this area by far.
Gotcha.
I have a ridiculous amount of cards that I've acquired over the last few years through buying lots, ripping wax, and making trades and stuff. And I have a pretty good collection. So all the people that come to the wrestling show, most of the people at the card show were there to get an autograph. By far, there were a lot of hockey people because we're hockey here, but the majority of people went in to get an autograph from the Godfather / Papa Shango. I mean, they had a great triple picture. I didn't get one because I have a ton of autographs. I don't have any more room for anything, but I got to hang out with them.
Right. That's worth the experience right there.
God, yeah, it was cool. It's fantastic. So, and because of that, I've got an invite. I'm going to be, I don't know when, but I'm going to be going over to Detroit and visiting the greatest wrestling collection.
That's going to be awesome.
I'm going to get to see the house. I asked him, I'm like, dude, I got to see your house someday. He's like, absolutely, brother. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So you set up at the shows also?
Yeah, usually it depends.
Okay.
Like Gangrel next month, I think they're just doing a signing at their, at the card. The guy has a card / Funko, toy shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when there's card shows, absolutely, I'm there because I've bought so much. There's only a few cards that I'm married to, like very few. One of them's sitting over there behind me, and I won't get rid of it. Probably my kids will have to get rid of it because I won't be here. But most of the stuff is, hey, great, I got it. That's really cool. If somebody else wants it, here's a price. It's what you want to pay. Great. If you don't, it stays in my collection. I don't care.
Okay. And I ask if you set up, because as we get through this and we start talking about stuff, I would like to get your perspective as a dealer and some kind of, I'm not going to say struggles, but I think there's this discrepancy with people who don't understand people who are like a dealer or running something as a business and how that equates to what you buy and what you pay and what you're able to trade. So we'll go back and forth on that, but we got off topic already. Let's go back to your origin story because we did not really talk about this on the Worlds Collide podcast. So just let everybody know where did this start? Where did the collecting gene, no matter what that is, where did that start at?
The collecting gene started with my dad in the early 80s. I'm 51. So we started collecting hockey cards, of course, from Canada. And of course, we had Gretzky rookies and all that stuff because it was the early 80s. So we had all that stuff. I remember putting cards in my spokes with clothespins, making them go brrr, and I'm pretty sure Gretzky took a few of them.
Oh my, that's
and
bad.
If I could find that card now, it'd still be graded a 1 and worth $1,000.
Yeah.
So we did that for a little bit, and then my dad wanted to start collecting stamps.
Interesting.
So we sold all the hockey cards, including from when he was a kid, Beehive hockey photos. He used to get the Beehive corn syrup, and he would take the label off, and he would send this little label in. And you got these little, they look like wood frame. They're like a 5x7 or whatever, I guess. He had 800 of them.
Oh, my.
And he sold them for $1 a piece at the time. So at the time, that was fantastic. Now, but anyway, we collected stamps, and then I got older, I moved out, and I've always collected little things. When I lived on my own in Vancouver, I collected Kinder Egg toys.
Okay.
It was something to do. And I still had wrestling magazines, and I'd buy the occasional figure. But when I moved back to Windsor here, let's see, is it 90? I don't even know, man. I don't even know anymore when I got back. I've been all over the place. I played college football. I quit. I came home to be engaged. My fiance passed away 6 months later. I moved out to Vancouver to start a new life, and I got into TV and film. I wrestled on TV for Championship Wrestling USA in Portland, Oregon. WCCW in Vancouver. You can see me in the background of Happy Gilmore, Rumble in the Bronx. I've done TV in the last 10 years as well in the Toronto area. Like, I've always been some sort of entertainer, and wrestling was there for me. I remember when I first started to go to wrestling school, it was like, I think it was 93. Again, memory's a little foggy for dates, but it was the first class of the Can-Am Dojo here in Windsor, Ontario. Now, the Can-Am Dojo, if you don't know anything about it, Scott D'Amore is the head trainer. Well, not trainer anymore because he's the president of Impact. Right. But he helped create it with Irish Mickey Doyle, who was the 1970 NWA Rookie of the Year and local favorite here, the Canadian Destroyer, Doug Chevalier, who the move is obviously named. Right. Scott trained Petey. He trained, oh my God, I could just go on and on and on and on and on. Myself, I was in the first class. Rhino was pretty much the guy that I trained with all the time because we were both big dudes. It was like back then it was cold in the winter, no heat, no air conditioning. In the summer, there were these metal beams that you had to make sure you turned sideways to suplex somebody so you wouldn't take their legs off.
Wow.
So these guys in this area ended up doing a lot of WWF and WCW enhancement talent stuff. I moved out to Vancouver to just get away and to try to change things up, and still got into wrestling there. Did about 6 months of TV there. Like I said, did some TV and some film. And then when I came back to Windsor, I met one of the guys that my best friend, pretty much. I mean, I got two guys that I'd say the only guys I hang out with, really, actually. He works for Impact Wrestling, and he's Junk Food Jeff. You can find him all over socials and stuff. But we've been collecting together since the early 90s, since about 93, since we met at wrestling school. I remember there was a time when we used to collect figures, and it was like I think it was the WrestleMania 15 Stone Cold that came out, or there was one of them that came out that we both wanted, and we went into a Toys R Us, and I hip checked him into a bin of toys so I could go get it. And I still have the figure downstairs, and we talk about that still to this day.
That's a heck of a story there.
Yes.
Where did all this start parlaying into cards then at that point?
Well, it was 2018 when I realized that if I showed you around my office, it's full of mint on card figures, as well as bins in the basement and stuff. I don't have any more room.
Right.
There's no room to collect figures. So I thought cards are really kind of cool. They're really small, and you can get a whole bunch of them, and there's some good value. So I was on a local marketplace, and it was May of 2018. And I saw somebody had 1998 The Rock Comic Images card. It was Raw at the time. And they had it for $125 Canadian.
Oh my gosh.
And I bargained them down to 100 Canadian.
Even worse. Or so, better, I guess, in your case.
He's actually we're in a Windsor wrestling group on Facebook, and I showed the card or whatever. He's like, "Oh my God, I sold you that card." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, buddy." I mean, I knew it was going to be a big card. Didn't know it was as big as it is, and will continue to grow. But that got me back into it. I was like, "Wow, this is really kind of cool," and I know that this card will be valuable. And I used to collect cards with my dad, and my dad still collected hockey cards at the time, right? So I figured I might as well. I mean, I still had some hockey and basketball and stuff from when I was collecting that ended in like the mid 90s stuff. And I found a whole bunch of Kobe Bryant rookie cards that I had. Nice. I was like, oh, I forgot. This is when I stopped collecting. Look at all these cards. And they're still fresh out of the pack in a box. Been there since 1996. Like,
wow.
Everything. Yeah, exactly. Everything was pretty amazing. So that kind of got me going again, and The Rock. And then I started, I can't remember the first box I bought, but I've bought pretty much since 2018 a box of almost everything. Didn't buy any Transcendent, of course, because I couldn't afford that gigantic case.
Not too many people did.
No, and I haven't got any Immaculate or the Impeccable, except for trading or buying singles on eBay. So,
yeah.
Last boxes I bought were Chronicle, and even those were a little pricey, but I got a good deal on a couple lately, and I bought them. But yeah, I've opened a lot. It was like, I remember being a kid just ripping. It was cheap, right?
Right.
And I remember the first good card I ever got, I was at a card show. It was Gibraltar Trade Center outside of Detroit, and they always had monthly card shows. And I ripped open a pack of Donruss 91, I think, 92 baseball cards, and it was Cal Ripken autograph card or whatever, and I pulled that up.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I sold that for like, I think I sold that for like $250 US, right on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, that always stuck there, right? But I traveled around. I lived in Vancouver, and then I lived in Hamilton. And when I got settled back in Windsor in the mid-90s, that's when the figures started, and then cards again. Yeah, the 2018, the Rock woke it up, and yeah, I've kind of got a pretty good collection since then. Not like David Peck or that kind of collection.
Right.
I'm getting there. I'm trying. I got my first autographed Wrestling All-Stars card, which we're going to talk about.
Yep. So what's kind of been the focus since you've actually dove into cards now? Like, what has been your focus on collecting? Is it certain types of cards, certain sets, certain talents? Like, are you all over the place? Like, what? Just kind of talk through your mindset on your current collection.
I've been all over I've been all over the place, like my mind, I think, really. But watching you on Wrestling with Cards, and watching you and Tony together and talking about, picking a lane and staying in it, because man, I when I look around, I'm like, oh, I spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I know not the wax really, but the singles I've traded or purchased, I'm a bargain hunter.
Right.
I pay attention to eBay. I pay attention. Sometimes I'll search spelling mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I got where is it? Up here? I know where all my cards are. That's kind of crazy. But with the mess, I got this Goldberg of 10.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Autograph, because it was spelled Golberg. Like I forgot the D.
Oh.
And I paid $45 for it.
I would say that's a steal.
Oh, how could I not buy that?
Yeah.
That's, to me, I'm a big dude, and I can't get life insurance. So really, my collection is my life insurance. I may have to start, cashing some of it out depending on how trends go and putting that money away. But that's what my kids are going to have, So I'm hoping to build a big enough collection. They'll be like, "Holy crap, this is dad," So yeah.
So how has the interaction with, since you're into collecting, so you're going and buying modern products, starting to chase the stuff you've always wanted, how has your intersection with the actual collecting community, be it your Facebook groups you're in or meeting some of the other people that are in the community, how has that been an experience for you? Because me and Tony talk all the time. Like, when we go back to, Tony's been doing this way longer than me. I mean, I've always been a collector of things like yourself, but it wasn't until I think 2018 that I just really dove into cards over everything else. And I haven't looked back. I've been having so much fun. But as when I started doing that, and then I started making content, started communicating with hobby people, it's just led to this whole network of people for me. So I would like to hear kind of how your experience has been through all of this.
Well, it was getting on Twitter that really got it going. I mean, I had a couple of Facebook groups, but I'm Canadian. And a lot of Americans don't want to sell to Canada, because shipping to Canada can be a pain in the butt, and shipping from here to there can be a pain. There can be customs and duties, but I live on the border. So I'm lucky that I can it costs me almost $20 to cross the border now. Crazy. But I have many friends that live over there, and I have a friend's house that I get stuff shipped to. So when I can buy it on eBay at American shipping prices instead of what I'd have to pay to get to Canada, it works. And if I buy Canadian stuff, it's shipped here, obviously.
Right.
And that's helped me, because I'm starting to get to the Canadian market Canada's so spread out. We have 35 million people, and it's huge.
Yeah.
So we're really spread out. So that to get to a card show, besides that one for me, there's not many in our area. Local, my buddy does toy shows, and I'll always set up there usually. But it's not cards. Sometimes he usually does just Funko Pops, right? But when he does a toy show, I'm there. But there's not a lot of good card shows in my area, to be honest. So I don't know, maybe I'll have to start running some and booking them. I mean, it's not that hard. Just get some vendors and do it, set it up. But the community in Canada a little spread out. But since I got to Twitter, and I got really following you is what really started to connect to me, because I started okay, who's Zhan following and who's following him?
Right.
And who are these collectors? Okay, well, here's Tony, right? Okay, WrestlingTradingCards.com. I'm on it almost daily. And I tell everybody about it. I'm like,
right.
You need information, go there.
That's the place to be.
Yep. And then so I've slowly connected the dots, right? And I've tried to stay away from all the the ridiculousness that happened in the Panini era that started with all the friction and stuff. I don't even want to talk about it. I just stay away from it. I don't care. There's some, just don't deal with it. Whatever. It's not, it doesn't bother me, man. I collect what I collect. I collect old, I collect new, I collect shiny. I've gotten it down to, or trying to get it down to, Seth and Natalia. I love Natalia because she's Canadian and underrated, and Seth super undervalued in his cards.
Yep.
So that's when I started grabbing those, and then autograph cards. I'm well over 500 now, and I like relics too. So it's kind of like,
I don't know. It seems like you still, like, as much as you think you're spread out, it seems like you still picked a few lanes, and that's what you're sticking with.
I just gotta stop buying wax, I think, is the main thing, because it's so expensive. It could be so much. And like, I bought 3 Chronicles boxes here locally from a card dealer. Now, I've been to his shop many times, and I've gotten really good deals because he doesn't know wrestling cards, and that's not my problem. If you're a dealer, you should know what you're selling. So I was going in there to actually pick up some tickets for Impact Wrestling for the Friday night, because he was an outlet for tickets. My buddy and I walked in at the exact same time. Like, he was supposed to go get him. So I saw Chronicles, and I said, "How much a box?" And he goes, 150 Canadian. And I said, "Oh, I'll take all 3." And I opened one, and the first autograph I got was the second last pack, and it was Wolfgang. And
I saw the video of that.
Most people say who, and then I got the Batista, which was cool. So that's obviously the second print run, because the Batista was a redemption at first, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I pulled the Batista. That's kind of neat. And then I cracked another box because it was just sitting there, and I've got a third one. It's just sitting there, and I gotta put it away. I think just cover it. So
that's something that I understand the fun and the entertainment that's provided, but if you're going to rip wax, you've got to go into it expecting to be entertained and expecting to just have fun with the process of opening, because that's why Prism got it's still getting a bad rap. And it's funny because you didn't want to bring it up, but I'll bring it up. People are still throwing the first year WWE Prism under the bus, even though the golds, the out of 5s, the 1 of 1s, the white sparkles, those are still setting records on pricing. And that's what we've said from day one, is the really rare stuff in Prism you're going to see continue to climb. You're not going to see the silvers, the greens, the base cards. You're not going to see that stuff sell for a lot. And I think there was this narrative with these newer wrestling collectors that didn't understand Panini products from the sports side of it. I think that's what they thought. I think they thought that, the initial prices when we were seeing Gable Steveson and all these rookie cards going for, $50 to $100 for a base card, I think they thought that was going to continue. And if you were into sports cards, you knew that wasn't going to happen. So to this day, people are still throwing Prism wax under the bus, even though there's probably some good stuff still out there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was kind of so that was my first exposure to Panini. I mean, like I said, I only collected tops in wrestling, right, and some clear stuff that I had, but I'd only been opening tops. So I'd heard the Panini's awesome,
the buzz,
stuff, and it's amazing. And I looked at some of the other cards in different sports. So I'm like, cool, but I had no ideas. And I'm one of the idiots that bought a Cable Steveson for like $45 because I was like, oh, I jumped on it. Now, but
that's a whole other argument, because that's part of prospecting.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's just that people didn't like look at the autographs. Like, autographs have always been a wrestling centric collecting thing. But not in Prism. Prism is a color parallel based product, and that's what sells for a lot. It's hard for people who, again, don't understand that coming from something else. And that there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with not knowing that, but that's what we were trying to educate people on, and it didn't click. But at the same time, I'm not paying, I got a box right when it came out for way less than what a lot of people are paying, but it got up to what, $1,200-$1,300 a box. I wouldn't pay that for any box.
The most I've ever paid for a box, and I'm kicking myself in the ass that I opened it, but at the 2018 Topps Legends.
Okay.
because I was collecting the rings at the time, the autograph ring, the Hall of Fame rings, because I'm like, those are super cool. Thick card with this ring in it. It looks really neat, right? And when I'm sitting next to the Godfather, I kept like looking over his ring. I'm like, fuck, that's awesome, man. So cool to see. But anyway, so I bought a box and I ordered it. It was off on eBay. It was out of Texas. I think I paid $400 US for it, right? And I was like, oh, that's a lot of money for me to pay for a box after exchange, over $500. And I cracked it open and I pulled an of 10 Bret Hart. So a gold autograph, amazing, beautiful, which is worth way more than that box was. But you want to buy a box of that now, you can't find one under $2,000 on eBay.
Right.
So the Gable Stevenson, that's the really only card that I overpaid for. I've done really well. And then once I made that and I realized that, oh my God, I fell into the oh my God, this stuff is really cool and shiny and I better get it. I learned listening to you guys. I also, listen to the other side and the Panini guys because I want to hear it all.
Right.
And, it's the story is his side, her side, or whatever, and the truth is in the middle. So I'll listen to them both and make my own decisions. I don't really care what anybody says.
Yeah, like when everybody was out there bashing Panini, I was going out and okay, I'll take that Dusty Rhodes White Sparkle for $20. I'll take that Hogan Red, White, and Blue for $7. And that is how you do it. That's how you build collections. You don't build collections necessarily through just going and ripping wax. That's the old school mindset that so many people struggle with when you start putting these boxes in these upper echelons of prices. If you have fun going out and buying, $100 worth of blasters for a Friday night, go for it. You're not going to get killed on any of that. But to go out and spend $1,200 on a Prism box, expecting that you're going to get that back in value is it's ludicrous.
I gotta admit, most of the time I've been pretty lucky. I can't say that not every box is good, obviously, but
sure,
I've pulled some pretty big cards and sold them for pretty good price. I pulled the Nikita Lyons Gala, and sold it at the beginning. Glad I sold it at the beginning, right? I pulled Cody Rhodes Select Ringside Gold. Sold that to Drake Magruder, and immediately he messaged me. He's like,
"There you go. There's another tie back to the community, knowing who wants what and who would collect what."
Exactly, and because I followed everybody. I mean, see their collections, but knowing what they want, right? It's amazing. What else I pulled? I pulled a Sasha Banks tie dye autograph relic from. I've pulled a lot of pretty big cards, so I've been lucky that way. But I've also had a lot of duds.
Right.
So
but part of the game with the wax,
the duds or whatever, you look at values, like when you talk about pretty much any tag team, but New Day and Usos, super undervalued. I just traded a whole bunch of New Day stuff because I picked up some in lots, or picked up an autograph card for 99 cents on eBay, and then turn around and it's, I can trade it up to something else. I traded for, it was a whole bunch, I can't remember how many, probably about 8 New Day autographs. I got Roman base autograph.
That works on for both parties involved.
Yeah, and I got a Drew Gulak acetate from the is it the Immaculate?
I know what you're talking about.
I just wanted an acetate card. I'm like, those look really cool. So he had them for trade, and the Facebook groups, I find there's more trading in the Facebook groups than I can find on Twitter. Twitter is more marketplace until you get to know people. But Twitter is more marketplace. Facebook groups, there's a lot more trading for sure. Because there's groups, that's why.
Right. Perfect transition. Let's get into this trade. And this is the whole reason I was planning on getting you on after the Worlds Collide episode down the road, but all of a sudden this trade happens between you and me. And I thought this would be a great exercise to talk through in detail what went through both of our heads. And I'm hoping that not only will this ignite the interest in trading within the community, but also help people better understand how to approach these things, because and then after we get done talking about the trade, I want to talk to you about the dealer mindset, because you're setting up at shows. I run an eBay store, and we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to let you start at the very beginning with how this trade happened and just everything that took place.
Well, one of the ways I've been buying and acquiring a lot of product and a lot of big product is I got into some breaks.
Okay.
Much more affordable than buying wax. Risky sometimes depending on the break. I mean, you got to watch out. Getting a player break was only good in the sets that had lots of cards.
Right.
When you get into some of them. So anyway, it was a player break on eBay, And I always look, and I like buying some of the cheaper ones sometimes, right? Because what the hell, they're cool cards. You get some good stuff. I look at the checklist on WrestlingTradingCards.com to make sure who's got the
Of
most,
course.
or who's got whatever, so I can bid on the right ones. But when I was bidding that night, I saw Karrion Kross. And from watching you and now talking to everything, I knew you were a Kross collector. You got the collection. Kross has commented on it. It's so
right.
cool.
Which is it's funny and awesome at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I had a buddy. I sold just a quick segue. I sold a Kurt Angle card on the weekend to Keegan Dimitrovic. He's a wrestling guy out there on Twitter as well too, and he knows Kurt Angle now through everything. And Kurt Angle commented on it. I'm like, that's really cool.
That's cool.
On the card. So I saw that Kross was a spot out there, and I got the spot for I think $5. It was so cheap, and I figured, why not? Might as well get it. If I get something pulled really cool, I know who's going to want it.
Right.
And it was watching the break, but I tuned in a couple minutes late, so I wasn't even paying attention at first when right in the middle of the screen that Kross card was there. But it was obviously the middle. It was a 101. Mm-hmm. And he's opening stuff, and as he's opening stuff, I start looking at the cards on the back, and I had to lean to the screen. I'm like, oh my God, that's a Kross 101. And I'm pretty sure I took a screenshot and sent it to you.
You did. Yep.
Yeah. And I was like, holy, this is amazing. So I got some other pretty cool stuff out of that. But when pulling that, like I said, I contacted you immediately because 101 Kross is going to mean so much to you. So hard to find a 101. It's not going to mean anything to me, really.
Right.
Yeah. So that was it. And I didn't know what the value would be because of these new collections of Panini and stuff. So I left it to you to make an offer. I mean, it's not like you're fishing it out there on some groups and going, hey, what would you pay for this? Or
right.
It's like, you're the collector, you know Kross, you know what you want. Whatever you would have said, I would have been reasonable with because you made the offer. So, which was great. So, and it worked out great for both of us. So, I mean, for me, it worked out great. I like it. So, and you look pretty happy. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you sent me the screenshot, this was not too long after the product was actually released. And I've talked about numerous times, if you're a super collector or you want to collect like a run of golds or something like that, if you see a card come out, even if it, there's a crowd out there that says, just wait for the product. It'll drop in price. That is true. That being said, anything, in my opinion, that is numbered to 10 or less, if you've got to have that card and it comes out, go for it. You got to get it. And so when I saw this, and I was like, okay, we're going to make this happen. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. So, and this is going to be a lesson of etiquette again, as we kind of keep that in mind as we're talking here. And you said you didn't know what that card was worth, a value or anything like that. So initially, just to be transparent, so we can talk money, I had been paying around $100 to $125 for a lot of the one-of-one Kross stuff that I have. That just seems to be the going rate. You'll see them out there priced at $900. I paid way more than $100 for that Transcendent Superfractor, but that's in a realm of its own. So, that was kind of my baseline. But because it was a newer product, I had to do whatever I got to do to get it because it's a one-of-one. So I believe that I asked you how much you'd spent in breaks, and you're like, well, you bought multiple breaks, correct?
Yeah. I spent like $100 on the breaks. I had probably 7 or 8 different people or whatever. Some that I think I had Natalia in that one, right? And but some of them I grabbed. I've been doing that more to actually get some cards for Tony. I got to talk to him about. I've been doing that more when I do a break. If I see something and it's reasonable price, I might as well buy it. If something gets pulled out of it, great, cool. And then I know people who want them. So yeah, I had 10. I think it was $100 or whatever, and you ended up making the offer of paying that. And then you gave me a $50 finder's fee and mail and stuff like that, which is totally cool. And then
that card.
And then that.
Yep.
And I don't care about, and they're tough. That looks way better than a 4 to me.
I'm telling you, wait till you'll see the video. By the time this airs, the video's already been out. But I just got killed on that whole submission. I got authentics that, that I don't know why they're authentic. That's the first time I've ever sent anything to PSA and got an authentic only grade. Like I've gotten 1s, I've gotten 10s. First time I've ever gotten just authentic. So I don't know.
I don't know how that's a 4. There's a little bit of corner. The autograph is fantastic. excuse me, it's a real autograph from an old timer who writes their name and an inscription of Hall of Fame instead of just initials, and we can talk about that too.
Right.
But it's a beautiful card. So I don't care what the value of that card is. That's one that I'm going to keep because I've got a couple of wrestling all-stars now. I picked up Canada's greatest athlete, Iron Mike Sharp, because
Tony's big fan.
I got Matt Bourne because I wrestled out in Portland, so I had to get a Matt Bourne card. And
do you have that one signed?
No, I have none of them.
Okay.
This is the first signed one.
Okay.
And then I got Rocky Johnson because it was
nice.
Day on eBay, and I'm like, might as well get the Rock's dad, right? So those are the only wrestling all-stars I own. So this is my first autograph. I hope it doesn't start a new addiction. But
it might.
I'm looking all the time. I'm always looking, going, But yeah. So
okay, let's go back then. So I was, when my initial offer in my head, again, etiquette for you people listening and watching, I was like, I've got to secure this card. So my initial thing was, I'm going to pay for the breaks, all your breaks that day. Just pay for that, and then we'll figure something out. And I asked you if you would be partial for trade, and you're like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, okay, perfect. So I've got the cash to you. That part of it is done. I've secured the trade. Now let's see what else I can do. And I started looking through my duplicates, and I told you that I had 2 steamboats off the PSA at that time, and I got them back. And then on top of that, I sent you the higher graded copy. I kept the lower graded copy. Then mine didn't have an inscription either, because that was just on the etiquette part. I had to do whatever it needed to do to get that card. And I think that's, trading is such an interesting thing, because I get so many people that will say they found something on my eBay store. Let's say, I don't know, let's say it's $100 card. They'll want to trade me, like they'll come to me wanting to trade for that card, and they'll offer me a $40 autograph, or they'll offer me $10 cards that aren't PC items, because they know if it's cross, I'm probably going to pay the market value. But I don't, and this is kind of where we're going to morph into talking about you setting up as a dealer. Like, what is your kind of go-to for trades? Like, besides me trading with you, how do you operate with trades? How do you operate as a dealer, as far as like, you can't, these lateral trades that people seem to want to do, unless it's PC items, I don't do that, because when you go to a show, you're paying to set up, there's costs involved with this. I'm running a business through the eBay store. I'm not doing it for charity. If you got PC items, obviously, like what we just talked about here, I overpaid probably for this cross card, and I am more than happy. You're more than happy. We came to an agreement. But there's so many people that I just don't understand, that they don't know how to properly trade and etiquette. So take that wherever you want. There's a lot to unwrap there.
Well, being a vendor here, there's not a lot of wrestling card collectors. I'm introducing people to wrestling cards here. Really, there's the select few, and then people will walk by and they'll be, looking at all the hockey and stuff, and they'll stop. I'm like, I'm all wrestling. And then they'll look and they'll go, oh, I remember that guy. And I remember that guy. So it piques their interest. Anyway, and I have figures and stuff there, so it piques their interest. So I don't do a lot of trading at shows. I haven't done any trading at shows, really, because nobody's approached me. If they did, what I do in a trade is, if I see somebody post in a Facebook group, for instance, when I got the Roman Reigns and the Gulak, I message them and I say, what value do you put on those? So what would you be comfortable in a trade value, and who do you collect? Is there somebody specific you collect? I honestly hate when somebody says, no, I just collect autographs, because I have 500 autographs of everybody. Please narrow it down slightly. But that's what, those are the questions I ask. What value do you put on it, and who do you collect? And then I grab out of my collection of what they like, and I'll put a whole bunch together, take some pictures, send it to them, and I'll look at the comps on eBay and see what things were. And I don't even think about the shipping, and I don't think people really understand that. If it's a $20 card and it costs $10 shipping, it's kind of a $30 card at that point in time, right?
Not to mention, let me put it this, put a pin in that. I'm sorry, I've got to say this. If it's a $20, if it's sold on eBay as a $20 card, for a US buyer, let's say that's $5 or less shipping. Okay, so you got to take that out of it. Then you've got to take out the eBay fees, which is usually like 10 to 15% based on, some different variables. So when you take that out, that is the $20 is the comp. But if you're trading that to me, and again, if it's not a PC item, I have to get it for a whole lot less than that. And people do not understand that.
And that's exactly what I do. I look at the comp,
Right.
And I take off eBay fees, I take off shipping, and I put it less than it would be, because if you're going to sell it at $20, you really would have sold it for about 15 or so on eBay, right?
Right.
So that's the value that I put on something, because that's a trade value. It's not a retail value. It's like watching Pawn Stars, and then they'll say, "Oh, I've got this thing, and I want $500 for it." And then they call the expert in, and it's worth $5,000. And the guy goes, "Well, I want 5,000 now." Well, you were willing to sell it for 500 a little while ago. You didn't know anything about it. I just educated you on it. So let's be reasonable.
Right.
And if you're trading with a vendor, you got to understand that a vendor's got costs to sell. The vendor has to get it at a cheaper price. So you're not going to get retail. You're going to get half a retail usually.
Right.
If you're trading with a vendor. I mean, I've traded for so long in my life, so many things, that those things all make sense to me.
Same.
And I understand that a lot of people don't understand. I haven't had any bad experiences on Twitter or Facebook. They've all been really good. My biggest problem is sometimes I'll ship from here to American guys if I don't get across the border. It takes a couple days longer, but it always seems to work out well. Everybody's been happy with all the trades, and it just connects you to more people, and you get to know what they're doing. So yeah, you gotta work together. You can't think that you're gonna get $1 million for it. You got to be realistic in what a value is. I mean, the value of a card is only what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right.
So, I think that rock card is going to be, it's ridiculous. I wouldn't even sell it right now because I couldn't put a value on it. I know it's graded through KSA here in Canada. Now, that's another thing that always gets to me too. KSA has been in business for 26 years, and nobody from the States is going to respect them because they're a Canadian company, but they wouldn't be in business for 26 years if they were doing crappy stuff.
Does that, for Canadians who buy that, does that affect it at all, or is it just like any of the other grading companies?
Everybody's still, even in Canada, is still PSA, Beckett, and what's the other one that's the biggest, the three of them?
SGC?
Yes, yeah, that one. For us, it's hard, because for me to ship to, I mean, I'm lucky again because I can cross the border and ship it from my buddy's house, but I don't want to ship that many cards at that much money and then put the 30% plus a 35% exchange rate on top of it. Like, that's what I look at too. I look at that when I'm dealing with American guys and Canadian guys, what value I put on things and stuff. So I'm not doing this for a living. I mean, I probably should with the amount of cards I have, but I do it. I usually fund my habit / addiction / hobby with what I trade or what I sell, right?
The self-sustaining hobby that we all talk about.
So like $600 at a card show on the weekend, half of that went back into buying some cards.
Right.
The other half goes back into buying some supplies and putting it in the bank or whatever. But whenever I sell something, the first thing I do when I sell something is I go, I better go to eBay and see what I can buy right now to replace it.
Yeah.
But I sold it for 100, so let me see what I can get, 25 to 30 bucks, and let me see if I can find a really good deal. I don't use sniping programs. I sit with the goddamn phone in my hand, snipe at the last few seconds, and I've gotten so many amazing cards at such cheap prices, and I'll get a lot from Canada because a lot of Americans don't want to buy from Canadians.
Yeah.
So I'm the only guy bidding on something sometimes. So that's how I built my collection. So
do you have any more stories of maybe some trades that went good, maybe some trades or offers that were sent to you that were not great or just ludicrous? Just some examples of what you should or shouldn't do, because I've been a huge proponent of trading. And a lot of times what I'll run into is I'll say, okay, Pat, I want this card you have. And you'll say, okay, well, I collect this and this is what I value it at. And I may come back and say, well, I don't have the person you collect, but I am willing to trade you. Let's say you ask me for $200 in value. I don't have what you collect, but I'm offering you $300 or $400 in value if you'll take other things. And a lot of people that I found sports card guys will take anything because they know they can sell it. But it seems like so many people I've tried to strictly make wrestling trades with, they only will trade if it's for a PC item, and it just makes it so that's fine if that's what people want to do, but it makes it so difficult for me to sometimes get things done. Like the rock card you have, I got mine from trading a Harry Potter sticker, a Steve Austin 95 WCW card, and a Michael Jordan scoring Kings. Like, you want to talk about a mixed bag because a lot of these dealers know how to do these things. And when you're just trading with an individual, it's so much harder to do. So anything you want to speak on that, or give some other examples of some good etiquette that you should or shouldn't do that maybe you have personally?
Well, this is like my last few trades that I picked up in Michigan. And of course, I like to trade for my PC, but I consider, honestly, I can probably consider collecting autographs the biggest thing that I do, really. And I'll get almost like, and I love inscriptions, Bubba Ray 3D, right?
Yep. And real quick, you can speak on this really quick. When you're collecting the autographs, are you trying to get like one of everybody, or you're just like, I want all the autographs? Like, what's your kind of goal with that part of your collection?
Within reason, I want all the autographs. I know I'm going to be selling things, and I know that eventually my kids will have to be selling things. So I don't get a lot of people that nobody will buy. Now, if they start to change, then yeah. But like Ludwig Kaiser, for instance, I think he's fantastic. The guy's incredible on the mic. He looks incredible. He's amazing in the ring. Imperium will keep continuing to grow, so I pick up his stuff. It's prospecting, as you said earlier, right? Omos. Who knows what's going to happen with him, but you've never seen a 7'4" giant in that shape.
Right.
The guy is intimidating. He's in incredible shape. Let's see what Brock does with him at WrestleMania to see if they can help. But I picked up the select autographs of his, like of 49s, for like $3.
Yeah, super affordable.
$3. Why not? Sorry, why not? I might as well. Eventually, it's going to be worth more than $3. That's the way I look at it. So, so I do collect a lot, and trades like it.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to get you on a tangent. Let's go back to that.
It's all good. I haven't had any bad experiences. That's for sure. Everything has been good. Everybody's been reasonable. I really, and I've dealt with some of the Panini guys too, right? I did a trade with Gelman.
And you mentioned Drake too.
Yeah, exactly.
Dealing with him.
It's just cash, man. That was great. But that's a story I shouldn't even talk about, because I had a bad etiquette slip. You know what? I'm going to talk about it for a second.
Let's do it.
So I pulled the card, and Brandon Toll, who used to be a referee for it, now doing a podcast with Conrad.
Yep.
He had made me an offer of $800, but it was going to take him a couple weeks to put it together.
Okay.
And I'm not working right now. And Drake came and made an offer that was significantly higher. I can't remember what it was now, but it was a lot higher than that.
Sure.
And it was cash immediately. And I had to make a decision. I didn't have cash in my hand. I didn't have a deposit. All I had was a virtual handshake on a guy that I don't really know. I just know people that he knows. So I decided to go for the cash. And I still think about it today. He blocked me from Twitter. He would never talk to me again. He'll probably talk shit about me on his podcast someday. And
regardless of whether that's right or wrong, you're admitting your fault right here.
Exactly. I don't know if I made the right decision or not. At the time, to me, it was the right decision. And some days I can't. But when I messaged him, he's like, "Oh my God, I can't deal with it now. I had to take my dog to emergency." And I'm thinking, well, if you got to take your dog to emergency, that's going to be
a lot more important,
more out of your pocket, and it's going to take a lot longer to sell this card. And by that time, you might not want to pay it because maybe the card had cooled down. So I made that decision, right or wrong, but it was a cash decision. There was nothing, I looked at all of the things. I even messaged my buddy and I said, "Dude, what do you think?" And he knows Brandon from Impact. And I'm like, "What do you think?" He's like, "I don't know if I would do that. But at the same time, if you really need it." And so whatever, it is what it is. You can't always be right or wrong. Who knows? Some people may agree with me and some people may think, what a dick move. But
well, just you talking through this may help somebody make a decision that they're doing. And that's the whole point of why we do this content to begin with. And kind of circling back, like if I was in that scenario, one thing, and I did it with you. Like one thing I like to do is, if you will accept trade of some sort, we'll figure that out later. Let me get you at least a little bit of cash right off the bat, and then we'll figure it out. So I think that's a good step. If it's, and you got to be careful. Like, I understand that you've got to be careful with who you're trade with. You can't just trade with anybody, right? You said it yourself. Like, some of these people you may run into that want to buy or sell or trade, maybe you don't know them. But as you get involved with the community, circling back towards the beginning of this conversation, you start learning who collects what and who's reputable, who's not, and all these sorts of things.
And I suggest Facebook more for trading, honestly, because of the groups, because
the groups,
specific groups, whether it's AEW, whether it's wrestling cards, some are WWE, there's a whole bunch of different groups. And then inside the group, you have the admins and you have the people that are making the deals. And then you can ask for vouchers. And it's so easier to get somebody to vouch for somebody in a Facebook group than it is on Twitter. Twitter becomes a pain. So you have to learn, you have to follow the community and be a part of it and see who's what and see who's who. And see, just because somebody has a crappy attitude and talks kind of like an idiot, they're still a reputable dealer. Right. You know, there's different things. So like I said, I've been doing this for so long with so many different types of collectibles. It's just, you got to learn how to deal with people. And it definitely, a virtual world is different, but that's why getting in a group and getting vouchers and getting yourself out there, where you're just sharing your picture of your card. Hey man, this isn't for sale or trade, but look what I just pulled. Is that fishing? Maybe a teeny weeny bit. But at the same time, you put not for sale, not for trade, because at that point in time, it's not. Because I don't know. I remember when I pulled the Nikita Gala, I don't like many wrestling cards like most wrestling fans do, because there's a female on it. We know the female values are usually higher, and I don't even want to, whatever. I don't understand that thought process. And then Nikita Lyons came into my life, and because she's thick and curvy, and and she's amazing. I think she's great. I think that girl has an amazing chance if she can get over another injury. So sure. Let's hope it works. I know what it's like to blow your knee out and never have a career and never realize what your full potential is. I'm the guy sitting there right now, the huge wrestling fan, because I wasn't in the ring, but I look at it and I go, you know what? If I would have been in the ring this long, I might be in a wheelchair, or I probably would have liked my drink and my drugs too much and probably be dead, to be honest with you. I mean, I started in the mid 90s, the era of craziness, right? So there's some ways I think, oh man, I wish, I wonder. And there's other ways I think, well, probably better I'm alive. So now I found another way to appreciate and enjoy it. So
that's awesome. Continuing your, I'll say wrestling fandom, but you know what I mean, through collectibles, through cards, through community.
Yeah. And driving guys now. And now I get to drive the guys, and man, like, the stories with Coco was just great. Listening to him talk about Mid-South and tell me WWF stuff. And we pulled a rib on the promoter, and it was hilarious. And then I look forward to it. They messaged me. I'm like, yeah, for sure. Why not? When they said Godfather, I was like, because, cannabis is legal here in Canada, and I've happened to love it for a long, long time. So, when I found out it was him, it was great. And what was really cool was I was in Vegas about 3 weeks ago for Impact Wrestling tapings. I went on a vacation. I went for that, and they had a card show at Sam's Town. Cool. And we should actually talk about that, because I went to that card show and I brought a whole bunch of cards with me, because I thought maybe I'll sell, trade, get some more gambling money, pay for part of my vacation, whatever, right? Not one vendor had wrestling cards except for a couple of boxes. Not one vendor had any single wrestling cards. And Impact had signings at the show. D'Lo was there signing. Godfather was there signing. Rikishi was there signing. Sabu was there signing. And nobody had wrestling cards.
It's still an uphill battle. As big as we think that it's gotten, it's still an uphill battle.
Tony would have been great to make the drive from Phoenix to Vegas for that one. If they do them again, that would have been perfect for him. But when I was there, I talked to D'Lo. I know D'Lo through Border City Wrestling, so I got to talk to him. And Godfather was sitting right there, and I introduced myself. I'm like, hey, Charles, how's it going? I'm going to be your driver next month, blah, blah, blah. And the only thing he says, do you smoke? And I had a Cheech and Chong shirt on. And I said, what do you think? And he said, well, we're going to get along great. And then I talked to Rikishi, because I met him through Border City Wrestling here too. I talked to him quickly and stuff. And I have something that I bought off eBay. It's my buddy works with Impact and stuff, and they have the banner from the card show, and it has all the Impact people on it, and autographed by the Death Dolls, by Eddie Edwards. There's probably about 15 or 20 autographs on it. So I bought it. I was going to hang it on my door behind me.
And that's from the event that you were at?
I was there, and that's
awesome.
I did this because I was there.
Right.
At the event, I don't buy T-shirts because they don't have 4 extra large, right? So,
a T-shirt is going to wear away eventually. But if you have an event piece, or cardboard or ring used items or something like that, like those things are almost forever if you keep them in good condition.
Impact does that every show on their eBay page. They have the table that Darren McCarty just went through at Sacrifice. I guarantee you, there's going to be pieces of the table autographed by Darren McCarty, by Bully. Anytime they do something, they have the coffee pot that Bully Ray threw coffee in Tommy Dreamer's eyes. They had the coffee pot autographed on eBay. They sell it all. They sell pieces of the mat. They cut them and they sell them. They get them autographed. If you go to an Impact show at their table in the States, a little different in Canada for the stuff they have for selling, but in the States they have swatches of canvas of autograph from anybody pretty much from Impact that you can buy, which is really cool. I mean, neat to have event use stuff. That's why when I collect relics as well too, I started with what's that Green Circle Trading or whatever, the guy that's
Doug. Mm-hmm.
I thought, wow, what a cool idea.
It is a cool idea.
Cards. And then I thought 57,000 cards, maybe that's not a great idea. So I looked at the relics and I thought, what's important in a relic? If it's a shirt relic that's just, hey, I put the shirt on and I took it off, no, I don't really want it, don't really care.
Right.
It's a shirt relic where you can see pieces of the shirt, but Panini's doing a fantastic job with that right now.
Right.
If you can see pieces of the shirt and match it out, I've got some RVD ones where the shirt, and make sure card companies put a picture of the freaking shirt on the person on the card.
It would be helpful.
Match it up, instead of here's a red piece and the guy's got a black shirt in the card. No, try to match it. So I collect those, and then matte relics I like from specific events. And like the Payback Roman Reigns matte relic. That's when he won the Universal title and started his reign, right? I've got a couple of Triple H ones when he was the ref, and I started putting little pieces of paper in the back of them so I know what the event was, right? But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love those. So
sharing and continuing the stories of history through cards is what you're doing.
Absolutely. And eventually I'm going to get myself, you've convinced me to get my face more on camera here. This is now my second time. I used to be on camera all the time and I just haven't done it in a long time, whatever reasons it is. I've been doing my openings where you only see my hands and just listen to me babble all the time. But at least I have knowledge and I could talk for a while anyway. But I do want to do that. This is the history of wrestling is right here. And there are people there are people right now, obviously, that don't know. I pulled a whole bunch of cards out. Like, I didn't know, actually, not just history, but I didn't know the value on this card.
I did. It's been all over the place. But crazy. Yeah.
I got a ton of them at home. I was just like, really? I had them marked for $5 in my bin. Not thinking.
Oh yeah, that's way too low.
Yeah, no kidding. So I was like, I better pull those out right away. But that's not, not paying attention sometimes. But I don't even know. I just lost my train of thought there with the Macho card. So history. We talked about actually in the podcast in the 100th episode about doing a podcast and teaching people about Macho Man Randy Savage. Because there are people that don't know. I mean, he's one of the ones, maybe he's not a good example, because most people are going to know who he is. But $1 Million Man behind you, for instance, not everybody knows who he is. He is ingrained in a lot of people from that era, and because he's been transcended into NXT with Cameron Grimes and LA Knight and stuff. But not everybody knows who he is. Everybody's going to know who Hogan is.
Or like the Payback relic. Like, people are going to look at that and be like, okay, it's a Roman Reigns relic, but they don't understand the significance. And that, I think that's actually more important, that you can like tell stories about the significance of moments with actual ring used stuff and tell that story than it is to, just say, oh, well, this is a cool card, or this is what this guy did. So I think you're on the right track for some good content.
Yeah, that's why I like it, because some of them are just, I pick up some card and it's like, just this was used at any event.
Right.
Big deal. No, I want to know. Yeah, I like those kind of things. And yeah, autographs too. I'm going to actually, and I don't do a lot of Instagram. I used to be, so my Twitter is at BB Stiffington. And I mentioned this in the other podcast.
In the Worlds Collide, yeah.
I used to work for a virtual reality porn company. And I wrote reviews of the movies, and my on-screen name was Bam Bam Stiffington. I came up with. So when I did my Twitter, I just kind of switched over that persona, so I can't really change the @. So at BB Stiffington is my thing. And I know when people see Stiffington, they probably think, what kind of guy?
This guy.
69 in your email when I was like, because it was funny and it made you laugh. So, but hey man, I was in the 90s, so I could laugh at a lot of those things. That was more my humor, right? but I use Twitter a lot, right? And I use Facebook for groups and stuff. I used to make a living on Facebook in my area with everything that I did. So Facebook's always been good to me for that. But Instagram was always just like, oh God, it's just one more social. When I did it working, I had to be doing it. And then I was thinking today before we were going to do this, I thought, you know what? I have at least 500 autographs. If I just do one post a day, autograph a day, and do a little write-up on it, a little bit of stuff, and then maybe do a podcast on those things, as we said, yep. Right? So, and that would be a way to start linking things. So it was my brain working before we started to do this. So, yeah.
So as we're closing out here, and before I let you give all those plugs again, we've talked about trying to find your lane in trading. We've talked about being a dealer, how to do trades, etiquette, the way that you think about how you approach the hobby. What's some parting words for the community out there that's watching this that you think would be something that maybe you've seen some people struggle with, that you think that something that works for you that could work for them? What's something that's really helped you out that you think others it would help them out, even if they're not thinking about it? I'll just leave that up to you at this point.
What could really help you out is watch more podcasts. I know there's a lot more than watching you, but I'm watching you and Tony opened my eyes to what wrestling cards could be. And
thank you. That was the whole point of us doing that.
And they've helped guide me and realize that, what can I do with this? How can I enjoy it? How can I not spend $1 bazillion, but still love what I'm doing? And so that's been good. And connect with people. Connect on posts, comment, wow, amazing card, awesome card. If somebody says, hey, share your WrestleMania cards this week, right? Share them. Talk about it. If you like wrestling cards, get involved in the community. There was the Panini BS with
sure.
fighting and stuff, and that's going to happen no matter what you do and no matter where it is. If you're doing fantasy football, fantasy baseball, people are going to fight, they're going to bicker, they're going to have the old school versus the new school. Stay out of it. It's none of your business. Don't get involved in the fights. Like, don't get involved in politics because it just causes problems. But get involved. Comment, like, share. If you like a podcast, make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to somebody. Make sure you share it. Like, do what you can. You've said it so many times, and I say it all the time too. Let's grow wrestling cards. So.
Yeah, and like you said it yourself, you putting yourself out there if you want to create content, putting yourself out there, just sharing your cards, because you never know when that one Instagram post or that one Twitter picture that you post, like, it inspires somebody else to start collecting that, or inspires somebody to say, oh, that's a cool wrestling card. There's wrestling cards. Where can I find out more? And it just, it kind of just snowball effect. That's what I was looking for. So, Pat, thank you for coming on the show today. Really appreciate your time. Thanks again for the trade. Hopefully, maybe we'll have some more trades in the future. It really does help that you have a U.S. shipping address, and whether it's delayed or not, it is much cheaper. And I don't care how long I have to wait, or maybe it's easier for you to wait on that too. But that helps with trades. So if you guys want to trade with him, let everybody know where they can find everything you're at or anything else you've got going on.
Twitter, as I said, at BB Stiffington. It's Pat Ryan out there. Facebook, it's facebook.com/Big Pat Ryan. When I start doing Instagram, it's the one and only Big Pat Ryan. And YouTube, I think my channel is just, it's Wrestling
Card Warriors. Yeah.
I started to create something. I said I better create some sort of branding, right? So I took the old WCW logo. Fiverr is a wonderful thing, and I had them create me a logo, Wrestling Card Warriors. I thought it was kind of cool. It fit, it works. Got a nice little intro that I'm trying to put into my videos. I'm trying to learn a lot more production stuff, but you can find me there doing that stuff as well too.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for your time, and I'll put a link to your socials and the YouTube channel below in the show notes. So thanks for your time. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys. Thanks again to Pat for coming on the channel and giving me and you, the collectors, his time to talk about wrestling and collecting, but also how to navigate trades, how to make trades successful, how to get things you want for things that you don't necessarily want. I really hope that each and every one of you that watched this conversation or listened to this today was able to take something away from it, especially from the trading aspect. I have made so many big-time deals with other collectors and other dealers that have put cards in my hand that, from a value perspective, I had no business owning. Or on the flip side, cards that I never thought I would get a chance to own in my lifetime yet. They were in front of my hands, or maybe they still are. Trading has allowed me to obtain other people's grails that I find out. I'm like, oh, I know that collector, I know that collector, I know that collector. Trading has also allowed me to get other people's grades, which then I can in turn get that to them because I know this person collects that, that person collects this. And then I can turn what they give me, whether it's cash, trade, both, into the PC items that I want. And I just think a lot of times, dealing with wrestling card collectors specifically, we have so many hardcore collectors that they only want PC items. And that's why I've been able to get a lot of wrestling stuff from dealers, because dealers have that mindset of just liquidity, being able to move stuff. So it's allowed me to get some wrestling cards that they don't want as much. But a lot of times when I've tried to deal with certain wrestling card collectors, they only want that PC item for trade, and that's fine. But it just puts a little bit of limitation, and that's why I wanted to talk through on this show today with Pat Ryan about what goes on back and forth. But trading overall is just a really fun aspect of the hobby, and I just don't think enough people participate in it. And sure, the goal is to get the cards you want, right? But the act of actually trading back and forth with different people and wheeling and dealing, it sends me back to elementary school when I was pulling NBA hoops packs and collector's choice and trying to trade all the stuff I didn't want for those rare or just base cards of Shaq and Rodman to then add to those player PCs. Those cards that I wanted, but I didn't want to go to the card shop and spend my hard-earned money, my allowance money, garage sale money, whatever I had at the time. I was a kid, didn't have a job. I didn't want to spend that money on those cards, so I would just trade. If you enjoyed today's video, reach out to Pat, let him know that you enjoyed his appearance on the Wrestling with Cards channel. I've put links in the show notes to his Twitter account as well as his YouTube channel, Wrestling Card Warriors. Make sure to go check that out. He's got a variety of content over there. It's great stuff. Give him a sub, let him know you appreciate his time and you appreciate his content. And while you're checking out the show notes, don't forget to check out all the other ways that you can help show your support for my content. Links to the eBay store, links to Patreon, links to my social platforms, the podcasts, and much more. And once again, if today's video brought you some value, hit that subscribe button, give me a like, and until next time, click the videos on the screen for more great wrestling card content. See you there.